In this video, I will be demonstrating how to draw a graph by plotting points. So the first thing we need is some information to draw a graph about. And here I have the heights and the arm spans of a group of adults. And these are just ordinary people. I'm going to throw in another set of measurements, and these are Michael Phelps's height and arm span. And we'll talk more about the unique relationship here for Michael Phelps as we move forward. So if you've never heard of Michael Phelps, he is the most medaled Olympian of all time. And here we have a picture with him with all of his medals. And he's a swimmer. That's his sport, an Olympic swimmer. Now, the first thing I want you to think about is what would be the ideal relationship between somebody's height and their arm span. We can go back to Leonardo da Vinci and his famous drawing of the Vitruvian Man. And the proportions here are 1:1. So in other words, the height of the Vitruvian Man is the same as his arm span. So that equal height, equal arm span relationship is what, at least for the Renaissance painters, people like Leonardo da Vinci, that was considered to be the ideal. The thing about Michael Phelps is his arm span is considerably wider than his height. And there's one hypothesis that this is the reason he's such a phenomenal swimmer is he has long arms with relation to his body size, which gives him a lot of leverage for swimming. One way to investigate this is to draw a graph of the information. And, all right. Now, to draw this graph, I need two axes. I need a horizontal axis and I need a vertical axis. And so I'm going to start off by drawing a horizontal axis. And I'm just sketching this graph, so I'm doing it all freehand. I'm just going to take my time and try to draw a nice, straight, horizontal line. Okay, that's pretty good. And I'm also going to draw the vertical axis. Wobbling around a little bit, but again, it's a sketch, so just do my best. Now, it's customary to label the horizontal axis with an X, and that's the first column of numbers. And then the vertical axis we often label with a Y. Independent variable, dependent variable. I'm not going to spend a lot of time emphasizing that, but now it's good to label these axes clearly. So I'm putting both the name of the variable or the name of the information, the numbers on the horizontal axis. These are heights. I have to think about what range of values to put on this axis. So here I have 58 to 76. So I'm going to start off here with 58 and count by twos. I'm going to skip everyone here and every square, label every other square. So we have 58, and make this one 60, 62, counting by twos here. And the largest X value in my table is 76, so 78 should be plenty. This other axis I'm going to label arm span. And also put the units. Now for this one, I need at least, or the smallest arm span we have here is 59, so I'll start this axis here at 59. And this would then be 60. And this What I'm doing right now, sometimes we say this is scaling the axis, because what I'm doing is I'm establishing what each of those boxes, the distances, mean here, or how far apart they are. 78, and this last one will be my 79. So to plot the points, what we do is we take the x, or the first number, and the y, which is the second number, and we put a point there. So 58, 59, x is 58, y is 59, so the first point goes there. Then we have 60, 61 is here, and 59.5 is right about there. And we have a 61, 59, so that would be that point there. 64, 64. So this person, according to Leonardo da Vinci, would have the ideal arm or height and arm span relationship there. You have 66, 67. So points right about there. Let's see, 65, 63.5. And another ideal, 66, 66. 67, 69. Let's see, 69, 71. And 70. And then we got 70.5, 70. That's close to the ideal, but not quite. And finally, we have Michael Phelps. Way up here. So yes, he's definitely with comparing his height to arm span to the other 12 people in this data set. We can see that he's quite a ways up here. Now, one thing we can do, I drew this graph by hand, and I expect for your homework that's what you'll do. And it's nice to use graph paper, and this graph paper I actually just downloaded off the internet for free. And basically what I did was I just went to Google and I typed in graph paper, searched, clicked on images, and I got a whole bunch of different images. There's all different kinds of free graph paper out there, and all you have to do is download it and print it out, and you can do your graphs by hand. Now, I also did a graph using Excel. I'm not really going to get into using Excel for this course. If you're familiar with Excel, it's okay if you use it. And, it's fine, but it's not required. Hand-drawn graphs are fine as well. But this is a graph that I, again, drew in Excel. And what I wanted to do is to compare the measurements we have, the actual, we could think of them as observed values for the 12 different people, and then Michael Phelps. And then these red dots here, these dots form a line, and those are the ideal ratio. I mean, so for every input value, I went ahead and I put a dot here or a point that would represent what that ideal height would be. And notice those are all along a line. And in fact, that's the line y equal x. So it's kind of hard to sketch this line, but if we think about it here, if we were to connect all these dots with a straight line, what we would have then is a graph of an equation. And one of the things that happens here when I connect all these dots with this straight line is sending a message to the graph reader that instead of having a finite and discrete set of points, now I'm talking about all real numbers for x and for y, and this we would call this the equation y equal x. And again, this is the equation where all the input values are equal to the output values. And again, the reason I did this, or I wanted to include those values as well, is because it's another way to highlight how different Michael Phelps is. He has, again, his arm span is considerably more than his height, especially when we look at the other examples from the adult human population. There's a few people that have arm spans that are greater than their height here, and a few that don't, but Michael Phelps is quite a bit different than the rest. So anyway, there's an example of how to plot points, draw a graph, and again, one of the really useful things about the graph is we can begin to see relationships between our variables, in this case, height and arm span. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.